Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Online Warriors podcast. As always, I am Illeagle 86 and I am joined by my good friend Techtic.
Heyo.
And my also good friend, not playing favorites, Nerdbomber.
Hello, everybody.
And we are here, as always, to talk to you about various nerd things and sundry. Have another full show for you all today. We're going to be talking about this Trevorrow. I just asked before we started how to pronounce his last name. Trevorrow. The guy who was supposed to be directing Star Wars 9 and then dropped out. There's apparently a Trevorrow cut, or really, I guess the script is out there. We're going to talk about what we've heard leaked from that. We're going to be talking about Digimon and a potential Digimon reboot, which is apparently Nerdbomber's first love, ? More on that later. And we're going to be talking about this new trailer from Netflix for Spenser Confidential. So again, a very full show. But before we get into it, how are y'all doing?
I'm doing pretty well.
How have you been?
It's been a good week.
How's the dog?
The dog is amazing. He is loving life right now. Had a great weekend. We got a little bit of snow. He romped around. Fantastic.
He and I, we usually actually call each other on the phone to catch up, usually over the weekend, but we didn't have a chance this weekend because we were both super busy. So just tell him I said hi.
Will do.
He's a good dog. I don't really know what else to say about him, just that I love him, and I love my own dog too. Again, not playing favorites. Let's talk about Colin. I'm going to stick with Trevorrow for the rest of the episode, and if it's wrong, someone I'm sure will go on Twitter and correct me. So basically, for those that have not heard, essentially a script for Star Wars 9 that this guy was developing way back in like 2016 has leaked online. And in 2017, Colin Trevorrow left the project due to what he was calling creative differences. And then, of course, as we know now, J.J. Abrams came along and reworked the story into what we have now seen, because the three of us have all seen it. Hopefully you have seen Star Wars Rise of Skywalker at this point, because I think we're probably going to be getting into the nitty-gritty details, potential spoilers ahead. But anyways, this script has leaked online, and I'm going to kind of hit some of the high points. I'm not going to go through the entire script, but here are some of the major bullet points. Rose Tico, who we know from this version of Rise of Skywalker was not really involved at all, is way more involved in the Trevorrow cut. Her and Finn essentially have to go to Coruscant. They wind up converting a bunch of stormtroopers to the Resistance. It's a whole big thing. It sounds like Finn's storyline is also much more expanded, and it creates an ending to his arc, given that he was initially a defecting stormtrooper as well. Anyways, they're on Coruscant. Basically, they have to ignite an ancient beacon in the old Jedi temple, which will call the entire galaxy to war, because the big thing is that the First Order is trying to limit communication between planets after the end of The Last Jedi, because they figure the Resistance will only grow in strength based on the whole Luke Skywalker thing. At the end of the movie, Finn and Rose lead a group of Force-sensitive youth to a remote planet where Rey is waiting to train the next generation of Jedi, including the Broom Boy from Last Jedi, if you remember the ending of that movie. As far as Reylo is concerned, well, Kylo Ren is essentially a super, super bad guy. He still dies. He has never turned to the good side, although Rey tries with the help of a ghost Luke Skywalker, a ghost Obi-Wan Kenobi, and a ghost Yoda. That's really kind of the high points. Rey's parents are actually still nobodies. They apparently Colin Trevorrow stuck with the Last Jedi thing of making her parents basically nobody. So yeah, I mean, I guess I kind of just wanted to start things off. You guys, I assume, read about the Trevorrow cut. What are your general thoughts, especially relative to the existing cut of Rise of Skywalker?
So I'm a little bit confused why they went away from this direction, because in my opinion, and people may disagree with me, but in my opinion, this seems like a way better movie to me than what we actually got in Rise of Skywalker.
Completely agreed. But
there's so many like loose ties from The Last Jedi that seem like they would have gotten wrapped up at least. I really like the whole next generation of Jedi training school type thing, because I felt like that was one of the major loose ends from The Last Jedi. Is they show that Broom Boy at the end of The Last Jedi, and it seems like, all of these people who are Force sensitive are out there in the world, and that's kind of also why I liked why Rey was a nobody, because it kind of meant that anybody had the power to influence and embrace the power of the Force and do good. And so I kind of like that. I don't understand why they went away from this. I don't know what the creative differences were that led them from this script. I mean, maybe it was too dark. Like maybe they didn't like that Kylo Ren was irredeemable because he was such a popular character with people. And maybe because Adam Driver is such a popular actor, they didn't feel like they wanted to go in that direction. And so they scrapped everything. But in my opinion, like, I would have liked this movie a lot better.
I like that you mentioned that it gave purpose to the broom boy too, because it felt like that just was hanging out there and didn't really flow. And that also kind of brings insight to the scene where he came across that other group of peoples on that water planet who were like, oh yeah, we also were ex-stormtroopers, cool beans. And then that was the end of that. It didn't fit anywhere else.
Exactly.
Whereas with this story arc, it makes that make sense. So it seems like they took little pieces of kind of every little script that someone had an idea of and mushed it into what we got.
Yeah, so I mean, I think, so Nerdbomber, I think you touched on the major reason why this probably wasn't pursued is that I think Kathleen Kennedy and the people at Lucasfilm and Disney, for whatever reason, wanted a redemption arc for Kylo Ren. I think that it would have been cooler for them to go the way that Trevorrow wanted to go, and here's why. Darth Vader has a similar kind of arc in the initial 3 movies, right? He is eventually redeemed, and he comes back to the light side of the Force, and you could argue he fulfills the prophecy that's talked about in 1 through 3. Kylo Ren, in the existing version of Rise of Skywalker that we got, kind of follows that same arc, right? He eventually returns to the light side of the Force. He does wind up dying, but he does so to kind of sacrifice himself for good. It's fine. We've seen it before. I think it would have been much more interesting and much more of a subversion of that Star Wars trope for them to come together, which, by the way, Kylo Ren also spends some time on Mustafar. This script that didn't get made features Coruscant and Mustafar, and those are 2 reasons why I'm also like super in. But it would have been so interesting at the end of this movie to see Rey and Luke and Yoda and Obi-Wan try to save Kylo Ren, and you think they're going to be able to do it, and then they can't, and they just have to kill him. Like, I think that would have been a cool moment. It would have been going against the grain of Star Wars, which might have been why it didn't happen, but I think it would have been a lot more entertaining. And to speak to your point, Techtic, about the whole Stormtrooper thing and how they kind of just wedged it into the existing Rise of Skywalker, I don't know what elements of Trevorrow's screenplay got taken and kind of shoehorned into JJ's script. Not very many, I would think, but like you said, I think it would have been way better for that transition of Finn finding stormtroopers and turning them to the Resistance. I think that would have been a lot more interesting to watch than just finding some people who said, yeah, we used to be stormtroopers and now we're not anymore. I don't know. I mean, I think another big thing about this script is that the ties to The Last Jedi are stronger. I mean, for one, they maintain Rian Johnson's decision about Rey's heritage, but they also seem to reference the Battle of Crate and the ending of Last Jedi that featured Luke Skywalker, essentially embarrassing Kylo Ren. They feature that a lot more heavily in the plot of this last movie, whereas the movie that we got is kind of just saying, yeah, The Last Jedi didn't really happen and let's move on. And I did not like The Last Jedi as a movie, but I thought it was also kind of a clunky decision for them to leave it by the wayside and just try to cram so much movie into however long Rise of Skywalker was. So I don't know. I mean,
I wonder, part of me wonders too so in the opening crawl from the script, apparently, they basically say that Kylo Ren has silenced all communications and has seized control of the farthest reaches of the galaxy, and then obviously General Leia is the one leading the Resistance. And I wonder if some of the decision to move away from the script too was in reaction to Carrie Fisher's death, because I mean I think they had 10 minutes of footage that they were working from and CGI. And so I wonder if maybe that just didn't work. Maybe Leia was a very integral part of the script somehow, and they couldn't find a way to walk it back and fix it without her.
Yeah. So the summary I'm reading doesn't seem, besides her mention in the opening crawl, doesn't seem to feature Leia much. But I don't have the full script in front of me. For all we know, she had a lot more of a part, and I believe the script is dated December 2016. So at that point, I think she was still alive. So maybe that did change quite a bit. And, I think we might have talked about this when we talked about Rise of Skywalker a few episodes back. But the way that the new trilogy is designed, right, is it's designed with these 3 movies where Force Awakens is really Han Solo's movie, Last Jedi is Luke Skywalker's movie, and all along, this Episode 9 was supposed to be Princess Leia's movie. And obviously, it kind of didn't turn out that way just because of unfortunately, because of how she passed. But I'm wondering how much that was baked into this script relative to the one that we wound up seeing. I don't know. I'm also kind of wondering how this leaked and why it leaked now. There's not many details on that in the article, but I do wonder how many people are seeing this potential script that never was and thinking like what we're thinking, which is, wow, this would have been a lot better. And if there are lessons to be learned at all. I don't know, but I really did not like Finn's character arc at all, and this seems to really make up for that. So
Well, he didn't seem like he had any agency of his own. It felt like he was on a wild goose chase.
chasing Ray around.
That was his job, just yelling, Ray, Ray.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas
And-
the plot from this Trevorrow script seems like he actually, it was kind of like in The Last Jedi where the trio of Finn and Rey and Poe, they all broke up and had their own adventures. And this would have continued along that track, further developing their characters as individuals, but instead they basically just made him a tag along and kind of reduced him to not much.
I really, and again, I might have talked about this when we talked about Rise of Skywalker the first time, but if there's one main gripe that I have with the new trilogy, it's that I thought I thought the beginning of his character, him being a defecting stormtrooper, it's so interesting. There's so much dramatic meat on that bone, and they didn't take any of it off. I feel like his character was just completely wasted. So, that's just one way that I think this script is better. I don't know. I don't want to speculate, but Trevorrow, so what he's most known for is Jurassic World, which was like pretty good. It wasn't like amazing, but it did very well. He made a really terrible movie right before he left Star Wars. So people kind of think he was forced out. There are some people who think that, at least. I don't know where I stand on that.
Maybe they just didn't trust, if his last movie was a flop, maybe they just didn't trust him to see this through. Do you know what movie that was?
It's called The Book of Henry. I've never seen it.
That
but
sounds
it was
familiar.
Like the definition of a bomb. Critically and commercially, it was just a complete flop. I don't remember what it was about. I don't really remember much of anything about it, but I remember that movie came out, and then I believe the timeline was soon after that he announced that he was moving on. And now, what is he associated with now? I feel like he's still associated with Star Wars in some way. I might not be able to Google that live. Let's see. I'm going to go to his Wikipedia and see. So he's doing Jurassic World 3, and he did Jurassic World 2. So he still has that going for him. And I believe he still has story credit on Rise of Skywalker, but I don't know why, because they essentially completely replaced his script. So I don't know. I think this is great. I think it's cool that we're hearing about it. We heard about the JJ cut, which I can't remember if we talked about that on this show, but we heard about the JJ cut. Now we're hearing about this, and this is the best thing I've heard about, and it does leave me a little bit frustrated that this isn't what was made.
Maybe this will yield him having some kind of influence in the next spin-off. The next great Star Wars adventure.
It is kind of interesting how all of these different cuts and scripts are getting leaked after movies come out. And it seems like it's when people are very unsatisfied with how the movie happens. I mean, this is what we've seen with Justice League. They've been clamoring for the full extended Snyder cut for, man, it feels like forever at this point. And the same thing here with the JJ cut and now this additional script. And it makes you wonder, so in all of the successful movies where you don't get backlash from the fans, how many different revisions of a script do you think movies see before they actually hit on the final one?
It feels like the alternate Super Bowl champ hats that just kind of disappear.
I mean, I see. When I think about this entire experience, this piece of news really, I think that Trevorrow is really the winner here, because it gets him a lot of free publicity for not having done this movie really at all. And a lot of people like us are going to think that his script was better. So it's going to have them excited for what he does next. And like you said, if he could potentially be involved in a Star Wars movie down the line. I don't know how many bridges he burned, Kathleen Kennedy and with Disney. There's a lot of stuff that's under wraps that we'll just never know. But it is interesting how we hear stuff like, yeah, you mentioned the Snyder Cut. I'm still hearing about the Snyder Cut. How many years ago did that movie come out?
I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago at this point. It feels like forever ago. And they've done absolutely nothing with that franchise since.
Right. And when we're still hearing about the Snyder Cut, and people are saying apparently the Snyder Cut's amazing, but maybe we'll never know. I think it would be interesting, to see. I mean, and granted, this never got to the filming stage, so we would never be able to see like the Trevorrow cut, right? And with the Snyder Cut, as far as I know, doesn't that exist?
I think so. All of the cut material is out there in the world, so. Yeah. I'm sure it probably does exist somewhere in full form. Kind of like, honestly, if you go back in the original Star Wars movie.
Yeah, they have like special editions. So there's a bunch of added stuff.
Right. And there's actually, I think it was Rocket Jump. They put together a really nice video showing how like the original edit was actually pretty terrible. And in editing, they basically saved the movie. So we're not affiliated with Rocket Jump in any way, but it's just an interesting video to watch, honestly. I think it's like a 20 to 30 minute long video, and it was super interesting.
But how interesting would it be to see, like, okay, the studio's going to back one, obviously. So you go and see Rise of Skywalker. And then, if the production journey of this movie was so uneven that there's another cut, like the Snyder Cut, how cool would it be to see that cut and see a different interpretation of the movie? Like, I feel like most people would want to see that. And you can love it or you can hate it, but at the end of the day, the studio is probably going to make money on both, right?
Definitely.
If Disney came out today with a Trevorrow cut and said, go see it, I'd go see it because I would want to know, okay, just how different is this? Am I going to like this better? I mean, especially with a movie like Justice League and a movie like Rise of Skywalker that have seen some divisiveness from very discerning fan bases.
So if they had released 2 unedited cuts and gave you the opportunity to watch both and pick one for them to edit, would you do it? Like, would you pay full movie price to see both?
To see both? Yeah, I think I probably would. I mean, well, see, it's tough. I think what I would do is I would see the first one, and if I like the first one a lot, I'd be like, all right, I don't need to see the second one. It's hard to say. I'd probably want to like read reviews and see which one people like better, and because then it would turn into this kind of competition, right? Of like which director is better, and that's probably why it doesn't happen.
That would honestly be a very interesting gimmick for a movie studio, though. Imagine you have a franchise that's just getting kind of stale, and then you come out with 2 different versions, and the audience gets to vote which version becomes canon moving forward.
It'd be super expensive, but I think it would get a lot of people more interested than if you just came out with a movie that people decided was lackluster. You know?
Oh, yeah, I mean, because most people then would definitely go see both. Movie producers out there, take note. This is your next big idea. Well, I mean, it's not consumer friendly, but
in the case of Star Wars and DC, these 2 examples we have, like, I am a Star Wars fan. If a Star Wars movie comes out, chances are I'm going to go see. Like, Solo came out, and I heard it wasn't that good. And guess what I did? I went to see Solo in theaters. Like, if a Star Wars movie comes out, I'm going to go see it. So, like, they could put out both at the same time, and I would almost certainly see both. I don't think it would work with a run-of-the-mill standalone movie, unfortunately. I think it would work brilliantly with a franchise movie, especially considering how much money they spend on these movies to begin with. You know, like even imagine if they made 2 different endings of Avengers Endgame. Like, yeah, I would go see both, and like you said, it would be interesting to then kind of have this public forum of like, okay, we're going to decide which one is canon. We're going to decide which one we like better. But I doubt there's any director that would want to just go head to head with another one like that. Doesn't seem like it'd be good. Like, there's so much potential for disaster there, right? Like, if you're J.J. Abrams and you decide, I'm going to go toe-to-toe with Colin Trevorrow, and then he kicks your ass.
Yeah, I feel like it would have to be 2 directors who are very, very confident in their abilities and, like, very comfortable where, like, they don't really have anything on the line.
Right. Like, Martin Scorsese and, like, 2 very old, very revered directors. Martin Scorsese and, I don't know, somebody else.
Is
Steven
Spielberg still alive?
Yeah. Like, that would be cool. Like, they pick a movie, they both do it.
I got it. Martin Scorsese versus Reddit.
Yeah, that would also be good. And Reddit versus anyone, really. But yeah, this is all very interesting. If you haven't heard anything or read anything about the Trevorrow cut, you kind of just heard a lot about it. But feel free to go poke around at it yourself. And I guess let us know on Twitter. Maybe we should start up a poll or something of which one you think is better and which one you would rather see. If you don't know about our Twitters, now's a great time to shout out the social meds. I'm at OWLegal86. We have at OW Nerdbomber and at OW Techtic. And then, of course, we have our main account at Online Warriors 1. So, yeah, go hit us up. Let us know which of these movies you think is better or would have been better. Yeah, it's very interesting stuff. So, there you have it, Trevorrow cut. Now we're going to talk about Digimon, and honestly, I'm going to turn this one over to Nerdbomber because she seems more excited to talk about this than anything we've ever talked about, and I don't get it.
Digimon.
All right, so this is the 20th anniversary of the Digimon franchise this year, and to celebrate, they have announced that they're coming out with a new Digimon adventure story. So earlier, I think it was last month, they announced a movie called Last Evolution Kazuna, and that was actually showing the Digidestined original group from the Digimon Adventure series, which is like the group with Tai and Sora and Kari and all of them.
It's like you're speaking a different language, but go on.
Well, those characters, and like Agumon. So basically, they are grown up in the movie that they announced, and it's basically going to kind of put like a cap end on their story. From the trailer, it seemed like there was something that's going to drive the Digidestins and their Digimon apart. As they continue to battle with their Digimon, they'll lose their connection to their Digimon. So immediately after that, basically a month later, they've now announced that they'll be rebooting the Digimon Adventure story altogether. So it's going to be a new series, but it'll be the same cast that you know and love, the same original Destined group from the original anime. And basically the story sounds about the same, but instead of taking place in the 90s, the children will be finding their Digimon pals in 2020. So it's going to be a very modern take on it. So obviously that'll change some things like the computer technology and all of that kind of stuff. The story itself is it's a little bit different. So in the original Digimon series, the kids all got their Digivices. Sorry, I'm like blanking on what these things were called because it's back in the 90s.
You're so excited.
But the Digivices they all got at camp. In this version of it, there will be a cyber terrorist attack, and Ty's mother and Kairi are on a train, and he has to go save them, which is where he then gets sucked into the digital world along with the other Digidestins. So it sounds a little bit similar. I'm very excited about this. I know Techtic is also very hyped. We're actually watching the Digimon movie right before we came on to record because we were that excited. And Techtic, I'd like to know what your take on this is.
So first and foremost, I think this is genius marketing because now they've released a movie that shows them full-grown adults, which allows us nostalgia 90s kids to kind of grow up with them and get back into it, like get hyped for Digimon again. Then, now that we're all hyped and jazzed on Digimon, they release this, which tells us, wow, we get to relive what we grew up with, but it's like a whole new spin, something that we haven't already binge-watched 10,000 times.
So you're not upset that they're basically retconning the movie that they're putting out this year with a new reboot of the series with the same characters?
I'm not, because I fell in love with those characters, and I've watched it way too many times to watch again at this point.
This is very true. I will say there were other Digimon series to come after Digimon Adventure with the original Digidestin crew. And I would say after those first 2 seasons, when they introduced new human characters, I was just not invested. There was something very relatable and down to earth's not the right word because they were in a digital world, but there was just something that coalesced about the group of kids that they chose for these characters.
Ty was my boy. I got no space for no other people.
And it felt like all of the other characters that were introduced later on were just kind of like cheap copies of the original characters, and I never really engaged with them at all. I always just ended up going back to the original series.
So are you on the same page with me that you think that they're gearing this show and all of what they're showing to us 90s kids and aren't so much trying as hard to get kind of the next generation involved?
Well, I feel like the movie definitely is geared towards the people who grew up with the show because they want to continue and see that storyline come to an end because we really left off with those characters in the Digimon movie and I don't think we went back to them. I think maybe there was a cameo in one of the other series that followed, but we never really got conclusion on those characters. So the movie is definitely targeted towards us. I think that the reboot itself, obviously it'll have draw from people our age, but I think it might be their attempt to get people back into the show like little kids. Because, I mean, Pokemon has been doing amazing for the last 20 years, and Digimon was always kind of Pokemon's rival. And so I think they kind of fell off the wagon because, like I said, they abandoned their original characters. So maybe this is their attempt to get back in the game, get new kids involved, kind of like what Pokemon is currently doing with like Detective Pikachu. And I feel like they have a lot of new entry points for kids. And maybe this will be the new entry point for kids to get back into Digimon.
So you're touching on now. I don't know very much about Digimon. I'm clearly outmatched in this conversation. I did not know. Has Digimon been going on this whole time and I didn't know about it? I thought it died. It's still going.
It didn't die. I don't know if there's still a show, but there's definitely
Looking
there's
online,
been video games.
It was in remission.
It seems like it's very big in Japan.
It didn't die.
It seems like it's very big in Japan, not very big here. Like my memory of Digimon, and I'm not a Pokemon kid either. So like with Digimon, there was never any chance because whenever you would see someone with Digimon cards, and I had to remind Nerdbomber before we started recording that there was a card game associated with this as well. Like when you see someone with Digimon cards, the first thought would be, why aren't those Pokemon cards? If you were watching the show, I feel like the first thought was, why aren't you watching Pokemon? I don't know. Maybe that was just me, but it seemed like from what I remember about my school years, that was the general sentiment. Not like if you watched Digimon, you weren't cool or anything, but like it was playing second fiddle, as I think you essentially just said.
So for those of you who didn't really get into Digimon as a kid, one thing that I implore you to do is look into the soundtrack of Digimon. That is one thing that it always was one step above of when compared to Pokemon. Even the intro song was kind of this little Digimon, and it was just awesome.
Yeah, but okay, the theme song of Pokemon, are you kidding me? It's like iconic. Everyone knows the theme song of Pokemon. I don't know if you're right about that.
I don't necessarily agree with the theme song, but I will say that I think in general, Digimon was a little bit more mature than Pokemon was, at least when both of the shows first premiered. Digimon was a little bit darker. The themes in it were just, there was a lot more evil and it was a lot more violent, whereas in Pokemon it was just like Ash on an adventure to grow up and catch them all and become the greatest trainer, whereas with Digimon these were kids who were tasked with saving the world against evil dark people who did really bad things in a digital world.
Yeah, I mean, the movie, it sounds like the movie, you said it starts with like a cyber terrorist attack. I mean, that's pretty heavy stuff.
That's what the new show Reboot is going to be. But even like when we were just watching the Digimon movie, literally the movie starts with a violent attack between two giant Digimon in the middle of a city and two little children, basically Tai and his sister, cowering as violence is happening in front of them. And I mean, it was just I think it was an older show and it just didn't hit in the time slots that it was put on because it was put up against like the Pokemons of the world. I would argue that it was probably more in line with Yu-Gi-Oh! In terms of the age that it was going for, but it was marketed towards the Pokemon age group, and I don't think it hit.
I mean,
wait a second. These are digital monsters. You're saying do they only exist in the digital world, or can they leave the digital world and fight in the real world? I know nothing. Both. So they're actually a physical threat.
And the other side of it too is Pokemon is much more cutesy monsters. I mean, they have monsters with machine guns on them. They have monsters that are dressed very, very scandalous, we'll say. It's very much for an older crowd, in my opinion.
I will say though, growing up, I freaking loved Digimon, and it was one of those things where you didn't really admit that you liked it that much, but because I mean everyone's favorite was Pokemon, so you just hopped on board the Pokemon
that's kind of the point
train.
I'm trying to make.
But I was definitely a closet Digimon fanatic. Like I had every Digivice that ever came out. I had we were actually just talking about the Vmon interactive clock, which now that I look at it, I went on eBay and I looked up a photo of it. Kind of spooky, looks a little bit creepy like a Furby does, but I remember loving that thing. That guy woke me up every morning when I got ready for school. And man, I even remember the last Digivice that I had, it was like when I was getting out of the TV show because I just didn't connect with the characters, but it had like an online battle component, and it was one of the first online games that I played because I was a kid. And like you used your Digivice and you swiped a card and you played against some other random people on the internet, and it was like revolutionary for me. I don't even know how old, but I was a kid and I was having a ton of fun, and it just felt more advanced, and maybe it was because of my love of technology and computers, but something in Digimon really appealed to me. So I, for one, am super stoked about this reboot, super stoked about the movie. I know as of now, I think the reboot and potentially the movie, those are slated to only come out in Japan at the moment. There hasn't been any word of an English dub yet, but I would assume that that's coming.
So road trip. Well, yeah. I guess plane trip.
I mean, the trailer that they put out for the reboot was all in English, so I'm assuming there will be an English version of the show made. But as of now, Digimon Adventure, the new reboot, will premiere in Japan later this April.
So you heard it here first. I feel like that kind of turned into an in-depth analysis of why Digimon didn't quite find the same success that Pokemon did, but this reboot is coming, so rejoice, Digimon fans. We are going to take a short break now, but before we do, I would be remiss if I did not shout out our wonderful Patreon producer, Mr. Ben Checkness. You guys have heard Ben's name many times before if you've been listening to the show, because he's been supporting us for quite a while, and we thank him for that. Ben is one of the coolest people we know because he supports us at the highest level of our 3 levels of support on Patreon. That is the night level, and as a result, he gets access to the monthly secret segment and the monthly vlog, and he also gets a producer shout out in every episode, input into our game segment, and the occasional guest spot. So you definitely want to be like Ben. We would love to have you on the show. We'd love to get some feedback from you on certain things that we say during it. So that's a cool thing for you to maybe do to engage with us. We obviously would really appreciate the support. If you don't want to hit us up at the night level, you can hit us at the Squire level, which gives you access to the monthly secret segment and the monthly vlog. Or you can hit us at the page level, which gives you access to the monthly secret segment. So if you are interested, you can head on over to patreon.com/onlinewarriorspodcast for more of the details. And with that, we will take a short break, and we'll be right back to talk to you about Spenser Confidential.
Hey, this is Liz.
Hey, this is Heather.
And we are Nerdy Bitches Podcast.
A show where two geeky ladies podcast their way through pop culture.
From movies and TV to our regular book club and everything in between, we bring you our favorite fandoms with a feminine eye.
We are talking Star Wars, Star Trek, DC Marvel, comic books, and anime.
And don't forget sci-fi, fantasy, action movies, video games, D&D, board games, and so much more.
Be sure to check us out on Apple Podcast, Google Play, Stitcher, Podbean, or wherever you find awesome podcasts.
You can also find us hanging out on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and at nerdybitches.com.
See you soon.
We're back, and we're here to talk about Spenser Confidential, which is one of Netflix's offerings in March. A trailer came out for it yesterday. It features our friend Marky Mark. I've been implored by the other two hosts of this podcast to do an impression on the show.
Oh, please do it. Please do it.
It's not going to happen. I think I'm going to save it for a secret segment or a vlog.
I feel like you have been teasing us with this impression since we started this podcast 2 years ago.
You know what? And you know what? I think at this point it's worth it. Like I'm trying to get people.
If you do it, I'll do my Christopher Walken's on the air.
Well, we can do this in a secret segment. That'll get people flocking to our Patreon, I think. You know,
all of the impressions.
So good at Christopher Walken's.
Yeah,
I don't know if I have
you'll
one,
do
guys.
one too. You'll figure one out. It doesn't have to be anything impressive. I mean, nothing's going to beat my Marky Mark impression. So
Should be like,
you'll just have to show up.
Nerdbomber.
It's not bad.
I'm Paul.
We should do a secret segment, and we're getting off topic now, but we should do a secret segment where we each impersonate someone else, one of the other hosts, for the entire segment. So like I would talk like Nerdbomber the entire time, and Nerdbomber would talk like me.
With a dark, deep voice. I don't
Who
know
was
who this
that?
would be.
Who was that supposed to be?
I don't know. That's the only like guy
I'm
voice
pretty
I can
sure
do.
that was Ernie from Bert and Ernie.
Yeah, it didn't sound very much like either. I guess I don't really know what I sound like, but it didn't sound like Techtic, so I guess it was supposed to be me. Anyways, let's talk about Spenser Confidential. Spenser Confidential is coming out March 6th. It's directed by Peter Berg, who is actually, he's one of my guys. He's responsible for the first Friday Night Lights, and I believe he's also responsible for The Rundown, which is one of my favorite stupid action movies. This looks very much like a stupid action movie. As I said, features Marky Mark, Winston Duke, who you may know from Black Panther and also from Us, which came out last year. Post Malone is in it. Alan Arkin. Kind of looks like your classic dirty cops story. Lots of fist fighting. Marky Mark kind of doing his thing. You know, he's kind of on a string of movies like these lately. What
nice
was your guys'
Boston accents?
Well, okay, so his Boston accent was good. One thing I want to call out negatively from this trailer, shout out to Eliza Schlesinger. Her Boston accent is horrendous in this trailer. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, watch it back. It is like, wow, how do they let this on the screen?
Other than that, like a Jersey accent, to be honest.
Was it supposed to be?
I don't know what
Marky
accent's
Mark's
supposed to be.
Boston. I can't even do a Boston accent.
Was that supposed to be a Boston accent? Marky Mark's Boston. I mean, I don't know. I guess the accent's in the eye of the beholder in this case, because she's doing a lot and none of it's very convincing. Based on a book, by the way. You would not think that from watching this trailer. Based on a book, and the book is actually based on it's a book written about a character that was originally conceived by another author. So it's kind of like you're playing the telephone game with this main character, Spenser. He was originally developed by Robert B. Parker. Then the movie is based on the novel Wonderland, which is by Ace Atkins. So that's kind of an interesting detail. But what did you guys think?
First
generally?
off, would you say after reading that book, you wanted to be a cop, and that's why you joined the force?
I haven't joined. Do you think I joined the force?
He's referencing Brooklyn
Nine-Nine reference.
Oh, you know what? Boy, the reference, I have to be honest, the reference is lost on me. I've only watched that show all the way through one time. I love it so much, but great show. This does not appear to be anything like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which is very funny. This appears to be a lot of Mark Wahlberg punching people, which, I'm here for it. But what were your general thoughts, general impressions? It's a 3-minute trailer. There's a lot to absorb.
I honestly thought it looked quite entertaining. It had, I do see the resemblance to kind of the Fast and the Furious high action. There probably will be a couple car chases. I mean, it did have some of the directors from Fast and the Furious having their part. So, but I think with Marky Mark, he kind of puts a hilarious spin on it just because he wants to be all actiony, but to me, he's kind of goofy, and I like that about him.
Yeah. He's very he's a guy who he's very actiony, but it's almost a situation where he's always like, I didn't want to be in this situation. And then he starts punching stuff. And I think
I very much appreciated the Batman, Robin, and Alfred joke that was in the trailer.
Oh, yeah. Honestly, Alan Arkin would make a great Alfred.
Oh, 100%.
Incidentally. But I want to get your thoughts too, Nerdbomber. Before I do, I want to go through some of Peter Berg's earlier films. So I mentioned The Rundown and Friday Night Lights. Two of my absolute favorite movies, by the way, 2003 and 2004, respectively. The Kingdom, Hancock, The Losers, Battleship, Lone Survivor, Deepwater Horizon, Patriots Day, Mile 22, and now Spenser Confidential. So the last 4 movies he has made, by the way, Lone Survivor, Deepwater Horizon, Patriots Day, and Mile 22, all feature Mark Wahlberg. I think you could say this is a match made in heaven. Anyways, Nerdbomber, further thoughts on this?
So for me, first of all, lately, if you have Mark Wahlberg in a movie, I'm there for it. I will watch it. The thing that
is
my
it because
first
of
impression,
his muscles?
I mean, his muscles.
She has a thing for short-ripped guys.
He's a good-looking guy. Don't get me wrong. I like Marky Mark. But I will say he's always just very entertaining. I feel like he's a good balance of the action and the humor. I feel like every movie that he's in lately, he doesn't really take super seriously. Like, he had some dramatic roles, but for the most part lately, his action movies are just a ton of fun. And that was one of my main takeaways from this trailer, is that I feel like Netflix is the perfect place for a movie like this. This is one of those movies where I don't think I would shell out the money to go see it in a theater, but because this is on Netflix, these actors and the producers and directors and whatnot, they all get to have a lot of fun. You can tell they're having a lot of fun with this movie, and there's really no downside because people are going to watch it. I think Netflix illustrated with, I forgot what the movie was called, but the movie with Jennifer Aniston and Adam Sandler that wasn't even that good. I think didn't it break streaming records and had more people watching it in opening weekend than any movie at the actual theater.
The one about the person who dies on the yacht. I can't think of the name of it.
Right.
But yeah, that one.
I feel like Netflix and streaming services are the perfect format for these type of movies because it's really a win-win. There's low risk, all the reward. I mean, obviously it's a higher budget film. And even for consumers though, this is the type of content that I want if I'm going to be paying for all of these different streaming services. I mean, it's nice to get the movies out of the theaters, which in my opinion, we're not getting enough of from all of these different streaming services. But to also get this original content, I mean, if you go back I don't even know when Netflix streaming began. I don't know if it was 10 years ago, but if you go back 5 years ago and you looked at the quality of content on Netflix, if it was a Netflix original, you'd be like, unless it's a TV show, I don't really know about this.
Right.
And now, I mean, these are high budget movies with a great cast and you know what you're getting here. It may not be an A+ movie, but it's going to be a fun movie to watch. So I'm looking forward to watching this. I think I'm probably going to watch it soon after it comes out. I probably won't day one this thing because it doesn't seem worthy of putting on my calendar, but I'm sure at some point in the near future when it does come out, I think it was in March
6th, I think.
I'll probably sometime in March sit down to watch this movie because it seems like a lot of fun.
Yeah, so you hit the nail right on the head here. I mean, I'm absolutely going to watch this movie. There are there is a place on Netflix for movies like this where you watch the trailer and you immediately think this is going to be a ridiculous movie. Not a poorly made movie, but a goofy action movie, maybe with some kind of some buddy cop elements going on, which by the way, if you've seen The Other Guys, that's one of my favorite Mark Wahlberg movies. He plays a cop in that movie and it's fantastic. When I go on Netflix to watch a movie, it's not always to watch a movie like The Irishman, which I'm going to talk about, by the way. It's often to watch a movie like Hitch, which I've seen a million times. It's really dumb, but I love it. So yeah, I think there's definitely a place for this on services like Netflix, and I think I'm absolutely going to watch it. So you heard it here first. Go watch the trailer. Let us know what you think on the social medias. Spenser Confidential, as I mentioned before, is coming on March 6, 2020 to a Netflix screen near you.
Featuring Post Malone. Did not see
Post
that
Malone.
one coming.
Yeah.
Post Malone getting punched in the face, no less.
Oh yeah, right in the beginning of the trailer too. Right off the bat.
I do say I don't want a sidebar, but I do have thoughts on Post Malone, and maybe I'll save that for a secret segment.
Just, I mean, for now though, you can't leave it like that. Do you love him or do you hate him?
Initially, I did not like him, but he is a deeper artist than you would think. Like his music, if you actually look up his old school YouTube stuff, like this guy has musical chops. He's not all like auto-tuned stuff like you hear on the radio. Like even his radio singles, like they're catchy. I'll give him that. But if you actually like go back in his history, he's a very talented artist.
I'm gonna say this.
Go
He's
ahead.
weirdly adorable.
So you're kind of getting at what I was gonna get at, which is I don't know anything about his music, his past or his present. I've seen him in certain situations where like he's been on episodes of television shows. He's like been on online shows that I watch, and like he's doing interviews, and like he just seems like the nicest guy. So like I like him, not based on his music, just on he has this spotlight of fame, and it seems like he's using it the right way. So shout out to Post Malone if you're listening. Hit us up. We'll have you on the show. You can, I don't know, drop some bars or whatever the kids are saying these days.
Spit fire,
hot fire, etc. Now we're gonna start. What are you up to Wednesday? And I'm gonna start because I feel like it bleeds into the conversation that we were just having. Because as I mentioned, one of the things that I did in the past week is I watched The Irishman. If you don't know, The Irishman is a Netflix. I guess you'd call it a Netflix original movie from Martin Scorsese, starring Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci. It's nominated for 10 Oscars, which is pretty much the reason that I watched it. And it's also 3.5 hours long. Longest movie I've watched in a long time. I don't want to go too into details. Obviously, there's a lot of detail I could go into with a movie that long. I didn't think it was that great. If you've seen any mafia movie in your life, you know exactly what you're going to get. If you like that, then you'll love it. I'm not a big mafia movie guy, so I watched it and I was like, I've seen all of this before. So that's one thing.
So I did watch that, by the way, and my household always had mafia movies going on in the background, and so it was just kind of another thing. I enjoyed it. Nothing special, but yeah, it was fine. I didn't not like it. Is where I would
exactly.
say.
It's fine. Like I think I would have enjoyed the experience more if it wasn't 3.5 hours, because after hour 2, I was like, all right, this is just a bunch of old guys sitting around in easy chairs eating cannolis and like talk. Like it's a mafia movie, but there's not a lot of stuff happens. Like there are a few killings. Obviously, it's a mafia movie, but like there's not a lot of action.
Posit no movie needs to be 3.5 hours. If a movie hits 3.5 hours, it should be cut into 2 movies.
I think I agree, and like I think this is a case of I don't want to badmouth Martin Scorsese because he might be listening, but like I feel like there are certain directors out there these days, him being one, Quentin Tarantino being another, that they just get blank checks to do whatever they want, and maybe they've earned that, but like you don't need to make 3.5 hours worth of movie. No one's asking for that. Wolf of Wall Street was like 3 hours long, and that was long enough. I could go on about Quentin Tarantino, but I won't. I do also want to mention before I throw it over to you guys that I also finished Control, which is like the fastest I've finished a game in a long time. And not because it was a short game. It was actually a fairly long game. I was just really, really into it. Given how few current games I've played, it's the best current game I've played in quite a while. Love the mechanics. The story was all right. It was a little convoluted, I thought. There are a couple of side missions that I did not finish. I did not 100% the game because some of the bosses brought me back to like made me feel like a kid again. Like I was helpless to these bosses. They were extremely challenging. Shout me out on the social medias if you've played this game and you can commiserate with me because I need that for my own self-esteem. Next up on the video game docket for me, I'm actually throwing it way back because I've been listening a lot to the Metroid Prime soundtrack at work, and I decided I'm just going to play that again. Going to be a fun experience, kind of a nostalgia trip. Yeah, with the GameCube that you guys got for me one year, by the way. So thanks for that.
I'm torn here because I'm glad that you're
excited.
using the GameCube that we got you, but also very sad that you're still not playing The Walking Dead.
This is. I hear you, but this is like Metroid Prime and me. It's a love that you have. You can't try to fight it, and you're not going to win.
Okay, that's fair.
It's going to be a pretty quick playthrough, I think, just because I know all of the game's twists and turns and all the secrets. But with that in mind, and in spite of that, I could not be more excited to do this. So I suppose I'll keep you updated, but that's pretty old news. Over to the Nerdbomber. What do you have for us this week?
All right, so this week, one of the biggest things that I've done is I bought Call of Duty Modern Warfare. And so before you guys groan, I kind of broke this cycle of buying the yearly Call of Duty games. I think the last one that I actually bought was World War II? And that one was because I was super excited that it was back to basics and back to boots on the ground. And then we had to buy a new PlayStation, and I got Black Ops 4 with the PlayStation, but I didn't play it that much because I didn't really like it. I'm not a big fan of like the jetpacks and the super, super, super fast shooting. I can't keep up with it. Maybe I'm just getting too old for that kind of play style, but it's too twitchy, and I don't have the reaction time for it. And I would get frustrated. I would spawn in and just die immediately, and it would suck. So I made the jump into Modern Warfare after hearing a lot of good things, and I got a chance to play it. And I think I probably pumped already like 15, 20 hours into this game. And I will say, in terms of the multiplayer, because that's the only part of the game that I've tried so far, it is probably the best multiplayer Call of Duty experience that I have had in a very, very long time. It really
like
takes me back.
Modern Warfare good? Like initial Modern Warfare?
Oh yeah. I would say like it kind of brought me back to that original Modern Warfare, Modern 2-3 combat style. And that's really what I fell in love with when I started playing COD. I didn't really like the jetpacky stuff. And so going back to that play style, I was super excited. I mean, the gunplay is as crisp as ever. I mean, Call of Duty, that's the one thing that people always can give to them, is that they perfected gunplay. Every gun just feels super good to shoot. It's super accurate. I will say the maps are taking me a little bit to get used to. Some maps are easier to play than others. They did bring back, if you did play World War II at all, they brought back the shipment map, and that is just chaos, and I don't remember it being so chaotic.
It's the smallest one, right?
Yeah, I don't like it in this version of the game, and I did like it in World War II, but that's just a personal preference. One of the things that I did find was super cool was that on some of the maps, depending on the game mode that you're playing, they actually have it at night. So then you have night vision goggles on, and that is something that I believe is new to this game, but it's actually really neat. It definitely brings a different perspective to the maps that you're playing on. There's one map that has caves, and I just avoid that like the plague when it's in night mode because you cannot see anything.
So you mentioned so Shipment is not in World War II. It's actually in the original Modern Warfare, because I realized I knew what you were talking about.
Okay.
It's in the original Modern Warfare way back in whenever that came out.
See, I never played the original Modern Warfare. I started with 2 and 3.
Yeah, blast.
I think Modern Warfare 1 is where, I mean, I haven't played in a while, but I think that's where the franchise itself peaked. And for me, I haven't gone back. You haven't played the single player yet? Because I was going to ask you about that.
I haven't yet.
Geez.
The cinematic experience of the single player mode in Call of Duty, I feel like requires you to sit down and almost, it's probably super unhealthy for me to say, but like one day.
One shot? Oh,
yeah.
Wow, yeah.
Well, because
it's
like they're like an 8-hour campaign, so you can definitely bang that out in a day if you have like a Saturday or Sunday where you're not going anywhere.
Well, yeah, but it's mission based. You can break it up.
You can, right? But do you want to?
I'm going to mention what I think is the best part about this game. Nerdbomber has the mouth of a trucker when she's playing.
It's true. Yeah. It's so true.
And I had work the next day when she was playing it last, and I was in the other room listening to crap. And
it got more explicit.
And I'm by the way, I'm censoring myself. I am censoring myself. It is far worse. And it just goes on, and I have to say, I did not know that I am engaged to a sailor.
So
There you
the
have it.
thing that I will point out is that I did not realize that I talk to myself as much as I do when I'm playing multiplayer Call of Duty. And apparently I do, because Techtic kept calling me out. Like, he'd be in the kitchen and he'd be like, "What'd you say?" And I'm like, What are you talking about? I'm not talking to you. Like, what?" And he's like,
Yeah.
"No, you're like talking, you're chattering incessantly." And I'm like, "Oh, I literally didn't know."
So actually,
We'll murder you.
Hayes has gotten on me about that before, and I'm not even playing multiplayer most of the time. I'm playing single player, and I can't get past a certain part, and I just start monologuing, and she's like, "What are you doing?" I don't know. It's weird. It's a place I go mentally when I'm struggling with a video game, which sounds like you might go to a similar place.
You just have to talk through it sometimes. No one
Maybe-
has to listen. You just got to talk it out.
And maybe not with as many dirty words as you use, but I can get pretty heated. I'll say that much.
So the thing that really got me is that I've been roller coastering with Call of Duty, where I'll have games where I'm doing really, really well. So like, considering I've been out of Call of Duty for a few years at this point, one of the games that I played yesterday, I went 22-7, so 22 deaths for 7 kills. No, other way around.
Yeah, I was gonna say that wouldn't
Sorry,
be great.
that would be bad. But then the next game, I broke even. And like, I feel like when you go from having a really good KD to just breaking even, there's that sense of disappointment in yourself, which is why I kind of got out of Call of Duty games to begin with. It's just because I end up feeling very just like disgruntled after
Yeah.
a play session. So
It's the same reason that I did. It's like, and I've played Destiny too, and like Destiny was kind of similar, but still, to me, there's no competitive environment like the Call of Duty environment where you really get on yourself. Like, like breaking even for me in a lot of other games, I'm like, oh, it's fine. In Call of Duty, it's like, man, I let my team down, I let myself down, I let my family
Right?
down. You know, it's like it really kind of wears on you mentally, and it's designed that way, right? Because it's designed to get you to play more, because thinking you'll get better and you'll get better weapons and you'll become this amazing player. I just want to know if like, did they? I don't really know what the story is like at this point, but I want to know if if any of like Captain Price is back and stuff. I think he is, but you'll have to let me know about that.
I'll keep you updated. Okay, so I'll give you my dirty little secret. Every Call of Duty game, I have never played the campaign. The only campaign that I have actually
crazy.
played is Infinite Warfare, and that was because we were doing a 24-hour gaming marathon for Extra Life, and that was a game that we had, and we all just kind of like sat there and played together through the campaign and passed the controller back and forth because we were like dead tired at 4 a.m. and we wanted to just do something to keep ourselves awake, and that was like a very cinematic experience.
You're missing out on so much. Like,
That was the only campaign I've played. I don't know.
Modern Warfare 2's campaign. Like, there's been ups and downs with the campaigns, but Modern Warfare 2's campaign is like one of the best campaigns I've played in any video game. Black Ops was alright.
That's crazy.
Modern Warfare was good. Modern Warfare 2, amazing.
I might
10 out
have
of
to
10
go
would
back
recommend.
and replay all of these. Because
They're
will
really
say,
good
like,
experiences.
I
Like you said,
usually
they're
love
short, but-
campaign, and I hate the fact that I'm one of those people who puts any merit into the statistic that the campaign of a game doesn't matter. Because I don't remember what game it was, but the one that shipped with just multiplayer and was super
Battlefront.
disappointing. Yeah, like, I hate that I'm a statistic that plays into that. So maybe I should go back and give all of these campaigns a good whirl.
They're worth your time, especially considering what you said about how short they are. Is you can blow through one, like you said, you could, if you want to sit down and do it in a single day, you have that capability.
I just need to basically take a week off of work and play through every campaign.
Sounds reasonable. We want to make it clear here at Online Warriors that we do not encourage gaming for an entire day. But if you must,
that is extremely unhealthy. I've only ever actually done that for like charity things, and when I was playing Spider-Man. I think every other game I've broken up responsibly into chunks.
So do it for charity, kids and adults. I don't know what the age group people listening is. Techtic, what do you have for us today?
Okay, so I'm really, really excited about this one because I received recently a new video game as well, and it was Dragon Ball Z Kakarot.
Aha.
And as you know from the whole Digimon discussion we had, I very much harp on the nostalgia. I can't get enough of it. I am a sucker for it. And when I was a kid, I watched the whole Dragon Ball Z saga multiple times, including Dragon Ball and all the prequel stuff before it. And this hits me right in the childhood.
Right in the feel bone.
And there are some quirky game mechanics that they added. For example, you go fishing with your tail, but if you don't know, all the Saiyans have tails except Goku got his tail cut off. Goku is the main character you play as. And so to go fishing with his tail still, he like waves it in the air and then shoves it in his butt. So
sure.
He's like weirdly sitting there clenching his butt cheeks and twerking to get fish to bite it. Which I don't know why they couldn't have given him a fishing pole and just been okay with that. It feels to me like an unnecessary game mechanic, but I like this game so far. The fighting is very smooth and intuitive. Like I said, it hits me in the nostalgia. There are some slight differences between the show that I watched growing up and the storyline in the game, but they're really nothing to clamor about. It's little nonsensical things like, oh, this person broke his right arm as opposed to his left arm in the story. So that's what I love about it.
Things that only you might notice.
Yeah, I love that it's the storyhood, because all these other games that have been coming out in the gaming world has like Xenoverse and things like that just are all this canon and non-canon storyline, and I started losing track and not knowing who all these folks that I'm playing as are, and I didn't care anymore. So to go back to basics was super refreshing for me, and I'm enjoying the heck out of it so far.
Well, there you have it, folks. We're all playing games. Some of them are current, some of them are not. In my case, we'll probably be talking to you about those games next week, or maybe something else. Who knows? Life is interesting that way. Before we get to our game for this week, we should go through the Fantasy Movie League weekly results, and we should let you know that Techtic is on top yet again. Although he tied with two other players. He just got the best tiebreaker. So Techtic in first place with 160 million.
I think he's cheating.
I think he's cheating as well. We'll talk about it off.
I'm calling
off
up the FML gods.
I don't know who you're calling, but you should give me their number. Devin Reed also tied with 160. Hipster Pop Geek is our third tire with 160 as well. Nerdbomber with 159. I mean, you just missed it. You were super close. Florida Hawk with 132. Spitfire with 113. Ben Checkness, our good friend, with 87. Mecha Yoda with 72. I had 39. Again, not really fielding a full lineup here. Secret Asian Man rounding out the top 10 with 17, actually closer to 18 million. So looking at the overall, Techtic is still on top in a comfortable lead at 331 million.
So
Nerdbomber closing in at 324, but still have a 7 million lead. Hipster Pop Geek with 313. Florida Hawk with 298. Devin Reed with 286. Mecha Yoda with 235. Ben Checkness with 221. Spitfire with 139. Secret Asian Man with 132. And I am at 129, and that rounds out the top 10. So if you want to play with us on Fantasy Movie League, get your own box offices, try and beat all of us. It'll be easy to beat me. You can head on over to fantasymovieleague.com, look up the league for the Online Warriors podcast. It's a locked league, but the password is podcast, all lowercase. We'd love to have you. Techtic, you got a game for us?
I do. So today's topic is artificial intelligence trivia. So can you both confirm that you're not any sort of artificial intelligence to have an unfair advantage?
Now, we're not talking about the movie, right? We're talking about
actual AI facts, and it's going to be Price is Right rules. And you did not confirm or deny that you are
I am not artificial intelligence. I'm just intelligence.
I cannot confirm nor deny that request, Techtic.
Okay, if you win, you get an asterisk.
I'm just kidding.
Okay,
so I'm just gonna, you still have the asterisk. You already said it.
I'm just going to roll right into it and hit you with the first question.
Let's do it.
$8.5 billion was invested in AI in 2015. How much is projected in 2020? And we're going to kick it over to, let's go with Illeagle first.
You said 8.5 billion?
Yes, in 2015.
in 2020, 20 billion.
Nerdbomber.
I'm going to go with 30 billion.
Nerdbomber gets it. It is projected. It is
Son of a-
exponential at 47 billion.
Wow. That's a
Okay.
lot of moolah. I mean, it makes sense, though.
Why can't I ever win these games? I'm already down. What's happening? Let's continue. I'm
Keep your
clearly
head
not
up.
artificial
You can
intelligence.
do this.
So
I'm
the
only 1
term
point down.
the term artificial intelligence was thought up by John McCarthy, a Stanford professor in what year?
Oh, so I go first on this one?
Yep.
Oh, boy. I feel like that term has to be relatively old because I'm thinking of like all of the old sci-fi books that featured that. I'm going to shoot from the hip and say 1920.
Illegal.
Boy, I really don't think it's that long ago. I mean, the first computer was like in the 40s. I'm gonna say 1945, right at the end of World War II.
Illegal gets it at 1956.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm in it. Shout out to John McCarthy. Thanks for that.
What year, and you both should remember this, so I think you could both get this. What
Oh,
year
geez.
did Watson's IBM AI perform on Jeopardy?
Oh,
Oh, shoot.
I don't know. I'm gonna say 2012.
Nerdbomb.
Oh, boy.
Out in the dark for me. I really don't. I'm not sure.
I'm going to say 1999. I don't even know.
That's way too early.
Yeah, I've messed that up. Okay.
So Nerdbomber gets it
Wait, what?
because
I busted.
Illegal busted. It was
Ooh.
2011.
This is a dumb game. I mean, why are we playing this? I was off by 1 year. Yeah, I'm gonna win. I'm gonna win anyways. Let's keep going. Oh gosh, I should have said 2010.
So a couple of these questions are projections. By 2035, AI is projected to be 1/10 as smart as humans.
That's terrifying.
When are they
Not that smart.
projected to be as smart?
No, because 1/10 means they're like creeping their way up to being as smart as we are. And when are they projected to be as smart?
Yes.
What is this even based on? I have a lot of questions about this question, but we'll defer them for a while.
I'm going to say 2050.
Like, how smart is the average human? That's a good guess, also.
Actually, yeah, what kind of human are we talking about? Are we talking about like a dumb human or like Albert Einstein?
They'll be
It's
able
all-
to. It's like task-based things. So I would say like an average human.
Okay.
I'm gonna say 2060.
Illegal nails it. 2060.
That's what I'm talking about.
Damn, Daniel.
Came dangerously close to busting again, but
So we are tied up with one question to go.
this is what it's all about, people. This is like the Super Bowl. Same level of excitement.
By 2030, how much is AI predicted to contribute to the global economy?
In dollars.
Yes.
I feel like this has to be a lot because
Well, so I go first, but you feel
I'm
free to.
gonna give you
work
guys
your-
one hint.
Okay.
Alexa is technically AI.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like,
By
you even think about
2030?
like the stock market.
You said by 2030,
By
right?
2030.
Oh man, because like I'm pretty sure doesn't AI control a lot of the stock market decisions at this point, like AI algorithms.
$200 billion.
I'm gonna say 500 billion because I think it's that much.
15.7 trillion
Holy
dollars.
crap.
Yikes. All right. Well, I wasn't even close, so I accept the loss. That's a lot.
So invest in AI. For those of you listening, it's probably a really good decision. And Nerdbomber wins this one.
Like, what's our? I haven't hosted a quiz in so long. What's our GDP relative to that? Like,
You're asking
America's
the wrong
GDP.
guy. Honestly.
That was a rhetorical question. I'm just thinking our GDP is lower than that, so I don't really understand how money works.
It's supposed to impact and increase our GDP by 14%.
There you have it. Well, interesting. I learned something today. We've talked about how AI is scary on the podcast before, but this is just another reminder that pretty soon they're going to be 10% as smart as us. And we only use 10% of our brains, so it's really as smart. The sky's the limit past that point. We appreciate all of you for coming in and hanging out with us. Oh, go ahead.
I do have one thing to say. Folks,
Please.
if you're worried about AI, the one thing that I think is a challenge for AI to beat humans on is innovation. So keep being innovative.
Make a new smartphone app. AI is never going to be able to do that. No, AI is never going to be able to make Flappy Bird. I'm calling it right now. They would get the idea and be like, it's too dumb. So make Flappy Bird. Make Flappy Bird 2. Actually, that guy probably has the rights to that. Anyways, we thank you for spending some time with us. We really appreciate it. We love doing this, and we love that people listen to it. If you enjoyed what you heard, you can head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a review. We'd love to hear from you either there or on the aforementioned social medias. And we're looking forward to talking to y'all again next week. So thanks again for listening, and have a great week.